Yoseo, all my beautiful people. How are you doing today? Welcome to the Alternate Point of View. My name is Tracy Lee. Welcome if you are new. Welcome if you are returning. I am videoing you from Arizona. I am on a kind of a vacation. I'm visiting family. So today we are going to talk about, oh my gosh, you guys, I have been watching this trial for the last couple of days. This is probably the most disgusting, sickening trial I think I have ever watched. And I have seen some pretty awful trials, and I just don't even know what to say about this one. But this is the Tennessee versus Sean Fanigan trial. This is the BDSM torture murder trial. And I know I'm supposed to be saying other words, but I just am at a loss here, you guys. So if you can't tell by my thumbnail, which is shocking in itself, because what this woman looked like prior to what she looks like now is already just shocking in itself, because on the stand, Rebecca Dishman, who was testifying against Sean Fanigan, who played the dominant role in the relationship, and Rebecca was the submissive role. She decided to testify against him in order to not get the death penalty, and he is up for the DP because of the deleting of a woman named Jennifer back in December of 2019. Now, how did this come about, you might ask? Well, let's see. In December of 2019, Rebecca was in a relationship with Sean Fanigan, who was in his 50s. Rebecca was in her 20s. She was living with Sean Fanigan, and they were in a submissive, dominant BDSM type of relationship, and he was taking care of her. You know, he was working. She was aware of this relationship, obviously. She accepted it. She also was very domineering in the fact that she was very jealous of any other women, even though they had other women in their relationship, that she was very threatening to those women. She did not like other women being around him, even though that was part of their thing, I guess you could say. Well, that is how Jennifer comes into this picture. Jennifer had a very hard life. By the time she was in her mid-30s, she had 7 children, none of which she had custody of. She was homeless. She was a heroin addict, and a lot of that stemmed from not having custody of her children. I'm not trying to make excuses for her, but, you know, not being able to have your children or keep your children takes you down a dark hole that you sometimes can't climb out of. And unfortunately for her, she couldn't climb out of that hole. And she was homeless, and she was doing things to continue to get drugs. And apparently that's where she comes across Sean Fanigan. And she goes home with him in December of 2019. And that was the last time anyone would ever see her again. And the sad part is that she does go home with him in order to either get drugs or have a place to stay. Whatever her reason, it was her last and final place that she would be. And what was done to her was absolutely horrendous. She was violated. She was just tortured. She was chained to a bed. She was violated repeatedly, and she was left alone with Rebecca, who could have helped her but chose not to. And when you hear this testimony on the stand, you hear Rebecca describe it as if this all happened in like one night. but it didn't happen in one night. It happened like in a matter of a month, a period of a month, apparently. So it happened over time. So it could have happened. The way Rebecca describes it is that she was brought into their home one night, and then suddenly Sean attacked her with a baseball bat and beat her and brought her up the stairs and chained her to the bed and required her to do things that were quite, disgusting and disturbing. Then, of course, required Rebecca to do the same. And it was just really awful. And then later on, they would keep her for a while as their toy prisoner, whatever you want to call it. And according to Rebecca, she supposedly tried to free Jennifer unsuccessfully. Sean would get mad at her and upset with her. And then eventually Sean would tire of Jennifer eventually, and he would delete her horribly by apparently strangling her, and then they would stuff her into a freezer. And the most shocking part is that the prosecution actually brings this freezer into the courtroom. The freezer started out being downstairs, and then Sean would bring this freezer upstairs into the bedroom and put it into the closet so that it would be in their room, close to them. And this is where Jennifer's body would stay for the next 9 months. According to Rebecca, she would sort of kind of ask for help from other people, but not really. She was able to leave the house of her own accord. She was free, able to go walk the dogs. Even Sean's mother lived in this house, in this apartment. So it's kind of strange the way she describes her dominant, submissive relationship with Sean. She was supposedly tortured by him with a lighter that you would use to light your grill with. She was cut by him with a box cutter. But also, Rebecca claims that she was a cutter herself. That's what she would do to herself. There was also no evidence to show that Sean ever actually tortured her in these ways. There is evidence to show, I guess, or ways that she did say that he would treat her like a dog, make her walk like a dog, bark like a dog, things like that. But this was part of their fantasies, their relationship. Watching her on the stand was quite deceiving for me. I'm not sure how it was for anyone else, but she looked like a weak, meek little girl. Then I saw her mugshot, and whoa, what a difference, you guys. She didn't look like a meek, sweet, young little girl in those mugshots. She looked like she could beat the crap out of anyone. She looked like she could hold her own. She looked like she could threaten quite a few people. So I wasn't sure how I felt about her on the stand and her testimony. And I wasn't sure if she was a victim or if she was brainwashed or if she had Stockholm syndrome or what it could be. She was very hard to hear. She was very mousy, but then it came out that she had a relationship with a corrections officer and she was threatening other women in the prison. She wasn't dressed in prison garb. She was in regular clothes, which was pretty surprising because she is serving a life sentence plus 50 years. It also seems that Rebecca and Sean violated a toddler. They have charges against them for that as well. That is where the extra 50 years comes in. So that's why the DP was taken off the table for Rebecca, and it is on the table for Sean if he is convicted. How in the world this has even gone to trial, I have no idea. I just don't get it. I don't understand how people can be this sick and disgusting. But hearing her testimony on the stand, I cannot even repeat the things that she said on the stand because it is so awful. I even had to stop watching. I had to go to a different trial because the things that were coming out of her mouth, the evidence that they didn't show they're not showing all the pictures, but there were some pictures that the prosecutor was holding in her hand that you could see. And I was just like, what the heck is happening right now? So I'm not so sure that Rebecca was quite the victim that she made herself out to be. Even the police that got up on the stand described her as very calm, very emotionless, the same way that she was. I apologize. I'm in Chandler, Arizona, you guys, and there is a lot of money here, a lot of private planes, things like that. My apologies. I was trying to go somewhere quiet because in my sister's apartment, it is not very quiet. So anyway, the police all said that she was very emotionless, very just calm. She wanted to tell her story, but she didn't have a lot of emotion. And she wasn't emotional on the stand either. She didn't seem to have anything about her. It's almost like she just didn't care. And there's one thing that I want to point out about her demeanor on the stand. So when she was describing the way that Jennifer passed, the way that she was being deleted, she hand motioned the actual event happening, and she hand motioned it herself as if she were doing it. So I found that to be very, very odd because she's claiming she did not participate in the deletion of Jennifer, but I don't think that's very true because the way she was hand motioning makes me feel like she was the one doing it. I'm not taking anything away from Sean Finnegan's participation and what he did by any means, but I'm not so sure that Rebecca didn't have her hands in this and she didn't get her hands dirty. Also, something that Rebecca said on the stand was that she was telling Jennifer goodbye because she knew she was going away. So that's very odd to me. They aren't showing pictures of the neighborhood even, or the apartment complex or anything. They had the neighbors on the stand that described the noises they heard that night. They had the neighbors on the stand that took Rebecca to the police station. They had the neighbors on the stand just kind of talking about their relationship with the Sean Finnegan. They have not had Mahogany on the stand, and Mahogany is a key person because she's the one that Rebecca used her phone a lot. She's the one that that was her way of contacting Sean while he was at work because, like I said, he worked a lot of hours. He worked until the wee hours of the morning. So I just find it odd that he was able to even have this time to do all of these things, to pick up people, to have the time to be this domineering person that he was. But apparently he is a very sick and disgusting man because, like I said, they do have the child charge against them as well that happened in May of 2020. So that's pretty absolutely awful and disgusting to add to what they did to Jennifer. So they had the police officers and the detectives on the stand talking about how they came across the situation. So it took all this time for Rebecca to come out. Who knows how much longer this would have taken. And here we are in 2024, and this is going to trial. This happened in 2019. I'm not sure what the gap was other than COVID that took so long for this to come to trial. So I believe that Rebecca had much more to do with this situation than she claims, but she struck a deal. And you can see that Sean Finnegan in the courtroom, he's like shaking a lot. He's very, very tense and very nervous. He looks like he has deer in the headlights look. So he's very fearful, I can tell. But at the same time, he shows zero emotion as far as anything. Even the mention of his mother and how she was acting when the police came to search her home. She was like very angry. She was screaming and yelling. Her emotions were high. They had to take her out of the house because they couldn't even like function with her in there. She just was like freaking out. And he didn't even wince, didn't flinch, didn't anything at the mention of his own mother. So I think that it's very strange. And what's also strange and scary is that Rebecca was a CNA. So she was a nursing assistant. Could you imagine that that girl was a nurse's aide? She worked with the elderly. I mean, guys, you just never, ever know. This is a scary story, and it's a scary situation, and it just ripples out into other people's lives. So you don't know what's going on around you or who you're dealing with. And that makes things even more horrifying in this situation, and even more horrifying in your everyday life. Because what? I mean, I just don't even know. I'm honestly having to take a lot of breaks during this because the listening of this trial is disgusting, and it is appalling. I don't even know. I have no words. It's just the words are just like, there aren't words strong enough to describe what I'm hearing and listening to. Jennifer's family obviously would never have wanted anything this horrible to happen to her. She was not on the right path, clearly. She was making poor choices. But, you know, guys, making poor choices does not constitute something this horrible to happen to you. The mutilation of her body, the things that he did to her after her death, that it just does not make sense. It's absolutely appalling. So, you know, I don't know how you can tell who is good or bad around you, but I would just say be cautious, be careful, obviously. But man, I'm not sure how I feel about Rebecca. I'm not sure if I think she is this victim. It's hard. It's hard to look at her on the stand and see this little girl looking person that they've made to put on the stand to testify, when I wanted to believe that she possibly had been brainwashed in some way until I saw her make the motion of how Jennifer was deleted. And when she said, I said goodbye to her, that's when I kind of took it away and thought, I think there's more to this story than meets the eye. And I believe Rebecca is probably much more culpable than she's putting on for the jury. But she's already struck her deal. So we'll see how this turns out. But after seeing that evidence being pushed into the courtroom, that freezer, you guys, I kind of think we already know what Sean Fanigan's fate is going to be. But this case is gross. It's absolutely gross. So I hope that this is a good enough recap. We're only on day 2. I can't imagine how much more disgusting stuff is going to come out, but that's your recap for the BDSM torture murder trial. And I will see you all in the next video. 감사합니다.